When I moved to Israel in 2013, Benjamin Netanyahu's party had just won the majority vote in the national election. He had already been prime minister for 10 years, but not consecutively. His first term lasted roughly 3 years, from 1996 to 1999. His second, from 2009 to 2013. Among other lesser positions, Netanyahu also served as Minister of Foreign Affairs from 2002 to 2002-2003, and as Minister of Finance from 2003 to 2005. Before moving to Israel, I knew nothing about Netanyahu. But as he began his third term as Prime Minister, while I was making the country my new home, I started to study him regularly. Regardless of your political views, you have to admit, he is a fascinating figure. Part of what makes Netanyahu so fascinating is how complex a character he is. Just when you think you have him figured out, he puzzles you. He can be the ultimate pragmatist one moment and the staunch ideologue the next, balancing between the demands of his coalition, the pressures of global diplomacy, and his own survival instincts. Love him or loathe him, Netanyahu is never predictable. And that's precisely what keeps him at the center of Israel's political drama. Speaking of political dramas, I am a little late to the game, but I just started binge watching House of Cards, a political drama TV series about a U.S. politician, Frank Underwood, and his wife who schemed to gain power in Congress and then the White House. The show ran for 6 seasons on Netflix from 2013 to 2018, with Netflix spending an estimated $100 million to produce the first 2 seasons of the series. And for good reason, it was a huge hit, helping establish Netflix as a global leader in original programming. It was also what allowed me to finally understand Benjamin Netanyahu. Before watching House of Cards, I didn't fully grasp the depth of Netanyahu's strategic instincts, his ability to think 5 moves ahead, or his relentless will to stay in power. Frank Underwood, with his calculated maneuvers, ideological flexibility, and unshakable focus on control, felt eerily familiar, like a fictionalized version of the real-life political chess Netanyahu has been playing for decades. In the realm of politics, some leaders transcend the mundane roles of governance and ascend to the status of near-mythic figures. They are not just politicians, they are master tacticians, architects of power, and performers on the grand stage of statecraft. They seduce, manipulate, inspire, and infuriate in equal measure. 2 such figures are Benjamin Netanyahu, the long-serving Prime Minister of Israel, and Frank Underwood, and the fictional Machiavellian protagonist of House of Cards. Though one is real and the other is a creation of television, their careers and characters mirror each other in uncanny ways. They are both ruthlessly ambitious, masters of political survival, and captivatingly enigmatic figures who demand both admiration and revulsion. Their genius is not just in accumulating power, but in the way they make the world feel simultaneously repelled by and addicted to their presence. For those unfamiliar with House of Cards, Frank Underwood is the central character in the American adaptation of the British political drama of the same name. Played by Kevin Spacey, Underwood is a U.S. congressman from South Carolina who, after being betrayed by the president he helped elect, embarks on a vengeful campaign to manipulate, outmaneuver, and ultimately seize the presidency himself. He is a man who understands power better than anyone else, how to gain it, how to wield it, and most importantly, how to keep it. Underwood's charm is his most dangerous weapon. He speaks directly to the audience with asides and monologues, making us complicit in his schemes, and even when we despise his actions, we cannot look away. His story is one of ambition unchained, morality be damned. Now, take a step back from the realm of fiction and enter the world of Israeli politics. There, one finds Benjamin Netanyahu, a figure whose political maneuvering rhetorical prowess, and sheer will to remain in power rival even the most cunning of fictional characters. Both Netanyahu and Underwood are creatures of political longevity. They are not merely participants in the political system. They bend it to their will. Netanyahu has served as Israel's prime minister longer than any other leader in the country's history, navigating scandal, shifting alliances, and relentless opposition to remain at the top. Similarly, Underwood's defining trait is his ability to survive, outthink, and outlast every opponent. The ability to endure, to see every challenge as merely another puzzle to solve, is the hallmark of their genius. Netanyahu, much like Underwood, has repeatedly demonstrated his ability to use crises to his advantage. He understands timing better than any of his rivals, often calling elections or making policy moves precisely when they will benefit him most. When faced with scandal or legal troubles, he frames the narrative in his favor, painting himself as the indispensable leader of his nation. Underwood does the same. When cornered, he does not retreat. He maneuvers, leveraging chaos as an opportunity. Frank Underwood's Southern drawl and eloquent monologues are among the most memorable aspects of House of Cards. His ability to turn a phrase into a weapon or a shield is unparalleled. Netanyahu, too, is a master orator. Whether speaking in English or Hebrew, whether addressing the United States or the Israeli public, he exudes confidence, control, and intellect. His speeches are carefully calibrated performances, designed not just to convey information, but to shape perception. Both men understand the power of storytelling in politics. Underwood tells the audience exactly what they need to hear to be seduced into his worldview. Netanyahu likewise crafts narratives about security, nationalism, and destiny that resonate deeply with his base. He understands that words are not merely communication tools, but instruments of power. Perhaps the most fascinating trait shared by these two figures is their ability to make people both love and hate them at the same time. Frank Underwood, for all his cold-blooded pragmatism, is undeniably charismatic. Viewers of House of Cards find themselves rooting for him, even as he commits heinous acts. There is something intoxicating about his intelligence, his audacity, and his sheer force of will. Netanyahu, too, commands a similarly paradoxical public perception. To his supporters, he is a statesman of unparalleled wisdom, the protector of Israel, and the only leader who can navigate the perils of the Middle East. To his detractors, he is cynical, power-hungry, and a manipulator of democracy. Yet, even those who despise him cannot ignore him. This ability to inspire both admiration and disdain is not accidental. It is a sign of their political genius. Both men know that in politics, being loved is powerful, but being indispensable is even more so. By making themselves the central figures in their respective political landscapes, they force their opponents to engage with them on their terms. Neither Underwood nor Netanyahu is afraid to play dirty. Underwood's rise is paved with betrayals, coercion, and even murder. While Netanyahu operates in the real world, where the stakes are different, his political maneuvering often mirrors Underwood's cutthroat approach. He has been known to outflank rivals within his own party, form and dissolve alliances when convenient, and employ fear-based messaging to consolidate support. Both men have also faced legal and ethical scrutiny. Underwood's crimes catch up with him in later seasons of House of Cards, while Netanyahu has faced corruption investigations and indictments. Yet, like Underwood, Netanyahu refuses to go down without a fight, using every available lever of power to secure his position. Despite their cunning and ambition, both men ultimately reveal the loneliness that comes with absolute power. Underwood, despite achieving the presidency, finds that ruling is even harder than scheming. Netanyahu, after decades in power, faces increasing opposition, legal challenges, and a nation deeply divided over his leadership. Neither man seeks power for its own sake alone. They crave the control, the ability to shape history, and the intoxicating thrill of being at the center of it all. But power isolates, and both characters are ultimately prisoners of the very thrones they fought so hard to claim. Benjamin Netanyahu and Frank Underwood are cut from the same cloth, cunning, relentless, and impossible to ignore. They are both brilliant strategists who captivate audiences, whether on television or the political stage. They inspire loyalty and resentment in equal measure. They bend the rules but never break, until perhaps they do. And when they fall, it will not be quietly. The mark of their genius, for better and for worse, is that even their fiercest critics must acknowledge their mastery of the game. They are not just politicians, they are symbols of power itself. Love them or hate them, the world cannot look away.